Good evening, guys, and welcome back to PA Street Scene. For those of you that are new here, my name is Derek, and I want to welcome you to my channel. It is Thursday night, and I know it's not very common for me to make weekday videos, but unfortunately I didn't have much of a choice this time. As you can see, I'm in my garage, and the R32 is behind me, but it is currently without a front bumper. And we'll talk about why that is here in a second, but actually having the front bumper off gave me an opportunity to test out a product that I've had and take care of something that's kind of been bugging me for a while. So as you can see, I'm going to actually move back so you can get a better view of it. But as you can see, the bottom of the front of the car, where the radiator and the air ducts and also the cool air intake filter, I don't know if you can see that back there or not, but all of that was coated in a pretty decent film of PlastiDip overspray, and not so much from when the car was originally dipped in the Pro line, but more so when it was covered in the graffiti, because the front bumper inlets on the R32 are honeycomb, so it lets a lot of stuff through, and it wasn't causing any bad issues with the car. Nothing was malfunctioning or anything like that, but it was something I had wanted to address for a while and just hadn't got around to yet. So having the bumper off created an opportunity for that. Also, it gave me a chance to try out this product. Now, you may remember this product from when I did the Carlisle Import and Performance Nationals video, because I used a little bit of it when I was trying to clean up some stuff, but I didn't really get a chance to use it for its intended purpose, and that is the dipyourcar.com dip dissolver. For those of you that have PlastiDip on your car, you're thinking about having PlastiDip, typically if it's applied properly on the car itself, it's done in thick layers and it covers really well, and that was the case for the Polaris Yellow that John at Liquid Wrap Labs, shout out to Liquid Wrap Labs, give them a little zoom in there. I apologize for the craziness with the camera. I really need to invest in a point and shoot to make my life easier. But yeah, so when it's done in nice thick layers, when it's all done, it should peel off like a great big sticker. And that is the intention for this car eventually, but I'll talk about that here in a minute. The problem with PlastiDip is when it's done in a kind of haphazard way, or it's done thin, or you're not getting an adequate enough coating, it creates like a film, and it's really hard to peel off if you can peel it at all. And with the graffiti on the car, which I let people do in a previous video, it's really kind of sporadic, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to peel it off, especially on the radiator and things like that have fins and small crevices and stuff. So I wanted to give the dip dissolver a try, and it worked amazing. If you have a PlastiDip vehicle or you're thinking about doing it, get this product. It's going to make cleanup in areas that you may not have wanted dipped, or you may not have taped off well enough. It's really going to make a big difference. And this video is not sponsored by dipyourcar.com or anything, although I will take a sponsorship if they want to give me one. But yeah, it's a really great product. When you use it, basically you just spray it onto the affected area, and it stays there for a couple minutes. You let it soak through. Maybe if it's a thicker haze or a bit thicker of a coating, you can go back and do a second or third coat. And then you basically just pressure washer it off, and it comes right off, because what it does, the dip dissolver, honestly, I don't know what the exact formula is, but it seems kind of just like a more intense orange glow, and it actually breaks down the dip or the Pro liner or whatever you're taking off. I'm assuming it would work with Autoflex as well, but I don't have experience with it, so don't take my word for that. But basically, it reliquefies it, breaks down the formulation of the dip or the Pro line, and it allows you to just hose it off. So it works really well. I drove the car over to the car wash, hosed it down a bit, and I don't know if you can see, but all of this was either Polaris Yellow or the funky colors from the graffiti, and it's a little dirty, and it's a little rusty. It's going to need some love this winter, but literally it came off like nothing. So I was really happy with the product. Like I said, not sponsored or anything, but it's something great to have. While we're talking about the PlastiDip, I've had a lot of people at shows and events on Instagram and things asking me about what my next plans are, because for those of you that I've talked to or people that know me, My original goal when I set out getting the R32 was to just have an R32 because I've wanted one forever. But then when I decided to do, Instagram and YouTube for it, my goal was to change up the car every couple months, budgetary concerns aside. But if it was financially feasible, that was something I want to do. And it's still something that I want to do. However, the Polaris Yellow I fell in love with, and I really didn't get a lot of time to spend with it. I only had it about 2.5 months before the car show in Mannheim kind of messed it up, which led to me covering it up with the graffiti just as a way to kind of try and do something fun and different. And honestly, I become more and more attached to the graffiti on this car every time I look at it. Now you can see the coloring in this lighting is not the greatest. I apologize for that. But the colors are still pretty vivid, and I get so many questions about it and compliments on it, and it just makes me feel good to look at it. I'm a graphic artist by trade. I'm not a mechanic, but I'm a car enthusiast, and I always have been. So for me to have something just plain has never really been my style. The R32 underneath all of the Polaris and the graffiti is Black Magic Pearl. So I'm really excited for when I do decide to peel the PlastiDip to see how well the paint held up underneath of it. Now I can tell you there's a ridiculous amount of dip and Proline on this car, so I can't imagine any rock chips or anything. The original Proline that we did in the yellow was, I believe, about 8 coats of white and about 4 coats of the Polaris, and then the black on the roof and stuff like that was done additionally over top of that, and then the graffiti on top of that. So it's probably going to be pretty thick. It should peel off like a sheet of vinyl if all goes according to plan. But to answer the question of what's my next step, I'm not really sure. I can tell you right now that my plan at this time is to keep the graffiti through the winter, just so that way I can keep making content and maybe take the car out on a snow day and play around, because it is all-wheel drive. Take it out to a parking lot or something and have some fun with it and not have to worry about, rock salt or things like that hurting the paint. So I think I'm going to keep it for a while. I have a couple things going on up in here that, plans or ideas for what next season might hold. So it'll be interesting to see which one I decide on, and you guys will definitely be some of the first to know. But I'm rambling, as I typically do. Basically, the Cliff Notes version is, I love the graffiti. It's around to stay for a while, but I don't know when it's going to go away. But I'm hoping when it does, that something just as fun and interesting will be next on the agenda. Now, getting to why the bumper is not on the car right now. I actually went to a Small Cars and Coffee last week in Harrisburg, and it was held by a group that's trying to create their own cars and coffee, so I wanted to go out and be supportive of that. However, it was kind of a small meet, so I didn't stay very long. When I got there, we parked in the grass, and there was one of those concrete dividers that they put at the front of a parking space. I parked behind it, but I parked close to the exit so I could make a speedy getaway when I wanted to. However, when I went to leave, I forgot that it was there. I just wasn't paying attention. I was talking and, being a chatty Cathy, and ended up hitting it. Not super hard, but hard enough that it moved the barrier forward about 6 inches. And it definitely scratched up the PlastiDip on the bottom of the bumper. I'm sure the bumper itself is scratched up, but I didn't want to be that guy and make a big scene and cause a ruckus, because it was no one's fault but myself, or but my own. So I decided to just kind of play it off, because that's kind of how I am. But to play it off, drive it home, and then assess the damage further. There is damage to the PlastiDip, which is not a big deal. You can just spray more on, and that's what I plan to do. There are some gouges out of the bumper. That's fine. The car's going to need a respray at some point anyway. I'm just going to sand it down and fill it in with some bumper repair. One thing that does kind of suck is there's a crack in the center, but I'm going to address that now. I borrowed some sawhorses from work, and we're in my garage, so I'm going to open up the garage door because it's really humid in here, and get to work. Okay guys, so I have the bumper up on the sawhorses right now. I'm trying to really get a good assessment of the damage. As you can see, some of this is just regular PlastiDip damage from scraping and things like that, speed bumps or rock chips or whatever. But here's where you can actually see the real damage. Let me focus in. So yeah, it's all kind of gouged out. Most of it is pretty shallow. I think I'll be able to just take care of it with a good quick sanding and then a respray of some Plasti. It all Luckily I didn't hit it too hard. It's definitely enough there to be noticeable, but it is what it is. It's kind of one of the benefits of having a graffiti covered car. I can just kind of cover it up with some more PlastiDip. However, right here is the large crack that I was talking about. It goes from the bottom here up to about here. Now it is a small enough crack that the pressure of the bumper kind of is holding it together, but I don't want to take that for granted, and I think I'm going to use some of the bumper repair on the front just to kind of smooth it out. And then also on the inside it comes with some mesh and some two-part epoxy, so I'm going to put that on it to fix it. But let's get to work and see what we can do. Alright guys, and with that, the sanding is done. There is some little imperfections here and there. There's still some areas where the gouges are somewhat deep, but I think for the most part, any residual scratches left over will be filled in by a couple layers of PlastiDip, and for now that's going to be good enough for me. I'm not a body repairman by any stretch, and in the spring when I peel the car, I'll probably either have it dipped over again or give the bumper a respray in Black Magic Pearl anyway, so I'll leave it to the experts. For now though, I'm going to use this kind of premix epoxy and fill in this crack a while, and then get a little bit on the inside of it too with the included mesh. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a mesh in the back behind the mixer, just to give it some additional strength. And then I'm going to come back tomorrow and wet down the edges of the PlastiDip with some of the dip dissolver to kind of smooth it out. I've seen them do it with repair jobs on dipyourcar.com's YouTube channel, if any of you guys are familiar with Fonzie. So I think that'll smooth out the edges, and then I'm just going to go crazy with a little bit of PlastiDip over this whole area to kind of seal it back in, keep it from peeling anymore, and to hide, you know, what's going on. So even though I essentially wrecked the R32, it could have been way worse. It was just me not paying attention, so I'm pretty happy with the small amount of repair work that I've had to do for it. So I'm going to get to work on this, and I'll be back as soon as I get it put on. Alright, and with that, I am finished with the application of the epoxy. I'm going to show you a little bit on the outside here. You can see I did a nice skim coat. I am not a professional body worker by any stretch of the imagination. I understand that this is going to need another sanding. And then on the inside, more of the same epoxy, then a layer of the provided screening, and another layer over top of it to kind of seal it in. As far as the inside goes, I don't really care how it looks. I think it'll be fine because it's more for structure. Nobody's ever going to see the inside of the bumper anyway. So with that said, there's not a whole lot more that I can do tonight because it is wet. It hasn't cured yet. So I'm going to come back tomorrow on my lunch break, give it a quick sand if it's cured, and then shoot a couple layers of PlastiDip over it, and it should be, well, as good as new can be for a car that's covered in graffiti.
The next day.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are back in my garage. It is now the next day. I'm on my lunch break right now, so I figured I'd come over and check on the progress of the bumper. It appears that everything has cured properly. As you can see, there's like a nice glossy finish. If I could get it to, there we go. Nice glossy finish where I applied the epoxy. It seems to be pretty strong. Just needs a bit of a sand, and then I can go back to touching up the PlastiDip on it. Okay, and with that, the bumper is basically fixed, as much as it's going to be anyway. I got a little ahead of myself, got a little excited about the idea of getting to throw some paint back on it, and actually forgot to wet the edges of the PlastiDip down to kind of smooth it out. So I ended up just putting a bunch of different colors over it to kind of try and mask it. I do believe that that's going to be one of my first projects once we peel the car anyways, to really get all of that down. So, and it's on the bottom of the car, nobody's really going to see it. So I'll show you guys what I came up with. It's a little silly, just some hash marks, kind of like an homage to drift stitching, just in honor of the bumper breaking. But I took the grills out. I'm going to clean those up before installing, and then I'll turn you guys around right now so you can see kind of what it looks like. So from the bottom, I just took some black, some purple, and some orange to kind of create a pattern on there and take away from it a bit. Now, as you can see, there is still some ridging from the PlastiDip where it was there, but at least now it's going to be sealed and it shouldn't peel up anymore. So for now it's fine. It's a little Halloweeny. It is October, so I'm pretty happy with how it is for now. I'm gonna wait for it to dry tomorrow morning before I go down to the show that I'm going to, and then I'll show you guys the final result of it, and I'll see you guys in a little bit.